Tonight on Eyrie, we look back at one good result versus Team Red, a not so good one, and look forward to our annual win over Cardiff on New Year's Day. Stay tuned. So, welcome back to the Ospreys Eyrie. I'm joined by Grant, as always. How you doing, Grant?
Well, good. Excellent over the last couple of days, Zach.
Yeah, so it's been a nice Christmas period, all in all. And given that our two hashtag shit lads have once again cried off last minute, we have been dutifully subtly off a sub bench. Sorry. Daffyd Francis, how you doing?
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite, and it's great to be here on celebrating another win against the Scarlets.
I was going to say that they're becoming oh so common, but oh, they still ever so sweet. Let's get on with it then. Only one piece of news over the last fortnight or so. The Ospreys have signed 6'4" back rower Marco De Witt on a short-term contract from Suzuki Griquois as injury cover for Jack Morgan. Standing at 6'4", he's a bit of a lump, 23 years old, and was a key member of the historic Currie Cup winning side that won this year's previously captained them. Grant, it's only looks to be a shroud piece of business, that doesn't it?
Yeah, I take it he's signed. We were like costing the Ospreys anything, seeing as Jack was injured playing for Wales. So short-term cover. He's a very different player compared to quite a lot of our back row. When you look at his highlights videos, he's tall, fast, rangy, lanky. I'd even describe him as, and his defence doesn't look too bad either. But I would have thought, given the fact that we will have back rowers pulled into the Welsh squad around that period, you'd see him coming into the match day 23.
Say that highlights video, although picking out clips of him clearly quite difficult. He looked pretty good, all. Be interested to see if he ever gets to pull on the shirt in the next few weeks over the Christmas period.
I
It's
think with that kind of scouting that we've been doing in the last few years, um, I think we've been very shrewd in the kind of personalities that we brought into the squad. And you look at all the players who played on the weekend, and and Mark Jones kind of like nailed it by saying it's all about your culture and the way that you work with for your teammates. And when you're in the trenches, you want to be able to trust the person who's standing next to you. And I think he's that type of person. I think he's gonna fit in quite well, and look forward to seeing him play. As Grant said, particularly if we're going to lose the likes of Morsey, maybe Harry Keeves as well in the succession. Who knows? Maybe even Moriarty, the way he played. So I think it's important that we strengthen the squad. I also hope that William Evans will get a chance to get a bit some game time as well as a recognised seven, particularly if Deevesy's into the Six Nations.
That's a good
yeah,
point, Willem Evans, isn't it? Yeah, he's had a couple of opportunities and he's not let us down at all. So,
No.
and he is quite different as a seven compared to the other two.
I was going to say, De Witt has mainly been wearing 7, but in South Africa, so he's probably primarily a 6
Yeah.
in like, Northern Hemisphere terms, which is what you'd assume. So maybe cover for sort of James Ratty coming in if he's off in the Wales camp, or Bruce Davis, arguably who's Sutton. There's three other lock options are probably going. It's nice to see. There's not much other news coming out this week, so we'll get on to our favourite section for show, the rumour mill. Boys, what has been your favourite rumour that you've heard around rugby, get alone Welsh rugby this week? Grant, do you want to lead us on?
It's quite depressing when you say what's my favourite rumor. The rumors are nearly all aimed directly at us, and they in terms of like trying to undermine the Ospreys. Latest one that popped up today is Mark Jones is nailed on off to Newcastle, and I'm pretty sure that Dav could counter that rumor.
Well, I hate the term nailed on because you get these kind of so-called experts, and they keep saying that they're in the know and they've spoken to someone, and invariably it's the same journalist, the same agent, the same person who's leaking stuff out of Westgate Street or wherever they come from nowadays. and it's apparently a nailed on version of what's going to happen. So I let myself down a little bit, and I kind of started a little rumor that it was nailed on that Mark Jones is going to be the professional coach for the West Wales region next year. Which, read between the lines, he's going to be our Ospreys coach next year. We're going to survive, so it's not really a rumor, but the people took to it and thought that I obviously was in the know, and the Scarlets were done. So I apologise if I've let myself down a little bit, but I started a rumor rather than just listen to one.
Letting yourself down, that's almost saying like you've lowered your standards, that very, I think
Yeah, I feel dirty.
it's a regular occurrence in it. It's Scarlet Fever and this thing here.
Oh dear me. Oh, that's been funny, mind you. I have had a little cheeky look over at Lawrence Scarlet Fever, and it's not right, man. It's not right. It's
To
feast
be
or
fair,
famine, isn't it? Feast or famine, like.
Yeah.
I don't know what you boys are doing, feast laughing at people clearly in West Wales' favourite cult. But it's last time I was there, I made the promise never to go back on principle that you can only believe them so many times.
No, I'll keep going back. If there's an opportunity to go and support the team and you don't have to fly, okay, then I'll take it. Most of the time, we'll go if we can fly as well. There we are.
Mm. I was going to say, other than the Mark Jones nailed on as one of three different head coaches, is there any other rumours that have caught your eye this week? I mean, I've got
There's the usual stuff, isn't there? That Dan Edwards is going, etc. But I mean, again, it's from the same people peddling it, and the same people who claimed that we were going to join the Blues, Ealing, Scarlets years ago. Same people repeating the same stuff. Same people absolutely adamant they're right. And it's the same people who hopefully be proved wrong again.
to be fair, I don't know if someone's looking who's currently looking to leave would go after missing a kick and then taunt the opposition fans. I think that's a bit on the nose.
Nailed on that he's going to Scarlets, nailed on he's going to Leicester, nailed on he's going to Cardiff. What else have we heard in the last few weeks? Yeah, we'll see.
Now Loggie's starting 10 for Wales in the Six Nations.
Mhm.
I was going to say, I think the only other rumour is that well-known Twitter bullshitter, Scarlet's Magpie has gone into permanent hiding after being ratioed by the Ospreys very dudely. He's not been seen since, unfortunately, for betterment of all our Twitter feeds. And I think it's nice. Quick shout out to the social team to actually fire back a little bit. It's quite funny, and I quite enjoy seeing it on my timeline. Please do it more. Let's move on to some actual rugby then. Obviously, we missed out on last week's pod, didn't get to preview the Scarlets game and didn't get to review the Munster game, disappointingly, which was a bit of a letdown to say the least, wasn't it, Grant?
Yeah, it was a tough game, and lots of people are saying, "Oh, we're on a major down now. How can the boys function together with all the rumours going on?" But it's the same team that quite happily beat Connacht and Montauban as well, and went on against the Scarlets this week. So I think you just got to look back and just say Munster are a pretty good side. They've only lost the one game in the URC this year. Sorry, two after the weekend now. But they're a pretty good side, and I just think that they outdid us in quite a few areas. And it's just tough to take, isn't it, when you look at the optimism we've got around how we've been playing the previous couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're very clinical, Munster, and I think if you look at the Munster Leinster game on I'd say the weekend, the last round of fixtures, they were very impressive against Leinster, and I thought they were quite unlucky, to be honest. A lot of the referees' decisions went Leinster away a little bit, but I thought they were really impressive against Leinster, and the scoreline was a bit one-sided, but there were elements of that Munster game that were decent. But I think there were a few warning signs as well for us, and lots of little things need to be addressed and tidied up and by the coaching staff and the players. But it's a long season, and a lot of teams are going to lose to Munster over the course of the season anyway. And we weren't at our best to play them. It's just a little bit disappointing, really, that we didn't keep the scoreboard ticking over. Maybe when we had enough possession, we had we had quite a few entries into their 22. I think we had 6 entries and they had 8 entries, and they came away with points. So, they're a clinical side. They're much more experienced than us. They're a very, very strong URC and European team, and it probably is a reflection on where we are and where we need to go next.
Shout out the Munster supporters who came over as well. They were a good bunch, and they popped into the Riverside Tavern after the game as well, and before.
I say there's a decent noise coming out of them,
Yeah.
disappointingly. But I mean, it was a nice. Must say the day out of the brewery wasn't quite what I wanted. First game back, but
Well, the highlight of the game was catching up with you and Jack.
yeah, it's probably pleasant.
It wasn't the right beer.
Probably it says all too much, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. There wasn't too many standouts to pick at from that Monster game. It all seemed a little bit flat.
Yeah.
After a bit, it looks like some of the boys are starting to feel the legs through. I think it's more interesting to talk about in the context of this Scarlets game when basically the same team came back and beat the Scarlets away. Obviously, final score 26-19. That does the Scarlets some favours, that doesn't it? Just didn't run of play, did not feel that the Scarlets really had that much of a look in, to say the least, did they?
I'd agree with that, but I think the thing that made the game look closer than it should have been is our set piece. And you look at where we weren't great against Munster, and we haven't been great all season. Again, our line-out struggled, our scrum was pinged a few times. And you look at the stats, and you look at the URC stats, we bottom of the tables for scrum and line-out, which is a bit of a shock for an Ospreys team. And it's something we've got to work on, because that gave the Scarlet so much possession, gave them so much territory on the weekend. It made them, well, it depends how many eyes you had on the game. Okay, it made them look a lot better than they were.
Yeah, I've seen the game back a couple of times now, and obviously for enjoyment purposes, first of all, I've been away, by the way, so I was on my phone keeping an eye out, and some updates as well from yourselves and other friends. But I watched it back in the cold light today, and I mean, there's a dozen things that you can try and improve on in a rugby game. But if you bring physicality and confrontation around the field in between set pieces, you're going to win games, and particularly if you dominate the way we did. The one that really struck for me was when Harry Deeves cut Jake Ball in two. I mean, that doesn't happen, or it didn't used to happen to the old Jake Ball. And Harry Deeves, half his size, absolutely wasted him, emptied him, and he couldn't get up for a couple of minutes. Now, that was late in the game, and Harry Deeves was still carrying on, keep hitting people. Same with Ratty and Smith. Moriarty was amazing. That level of physicality we had, they just had absolutely no answer to it. The only thing they were doing was going wide really early.
Yeah.
So they needed probably an outside half to put the ball behind us a little bit, play a little bit without the ball, and bring intensity to their defensive game a little bit. Gareth Davis is a fantastic athlete and a fantastic player, but he doesn't read the game particularly well. He won't kind of change things up a little bit. He's always trying to play and break the game up constantly. And Joe Hawkins, obviously, is very inexperienced at outside half, so they didn't really change the tactics much. And although, I was disappointed at first looking at the scrums again, there were a couple of really good scrums, and we got better throughout the game. Now, I don't know what the reason was for that, whether it was personnel, whether it was something to do with weight coming from the second row or timing or something, but we did finish stronger in the set piece in the scrum. But I don't think we can afford to be as shaky against the Cardiff pack in that sense, because they did have the edge on the Scarlets when they played a fortnight ago. So that's going to be one of the things I hope they address, and it might be personnel. If you start with Bota, it might be a little bit stronger, in the first exchanges. But I think the scrum is something that we're going to have to improve. But away from the set piece, we were absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. And there was I will say I looked back at then this afternoon. I looked back at the Scarlets Cardiff game as well, and I think there was a lack of intensity in that game. And so at the moment, we are the ones leading that kind of approach to a game. So hopefully, the personalities like Moriarty and Deves, Dewi Lake, obviously, with their leadership up front, hopefully we'll take that into the game on New Year's Day.
There's just a commitment, isn't it? And a physicality for the entire 80 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, you said the forwards performed really well, but you've got to highlight our two centres and Keelan as well. Okay, in terms of the
Mm.
defensive performance, Scarlets ended up with five almost international quality centres on the pitch, and they had two wingers, two centres, and a fly half. And our two centres were the two players everyone's talking about because defensive,
Mm.
they were right on top of them. They made it look easy to defend.
Yeah.
Apart from when they went wide early on and they had a little bit of change out of us. After that, pretty much we just shut up shop.
Well, you consider the first entries of the Scarlets into O22. We were our line speed and our domination and physicality was fantastic. And I know ball kind of sneaked in for a disallowed try, but there was no real width there. And every time the ball carrier put his hand up to carry, we punished him physically, psychologically. We came off the line. Everyone, Hugh Sutton, everyone, it just came off flying and smashing into them. And then you fast forward then to Owen Watkins' try, and he walked it in.
Yeah.
And that was a massive difference in between the two sides.
Efficiency with the ball was there's a huge difference in terms of what we could do with the ball. In terms of
Yeah.
the meters we gained every time we had the ball, it was chalk and cheese. We just didn't have that much of it. We had a lot. If we'd sorted out set piece, then I think the score could have been quite different.
Oh, it would have been. And without being too kind of arrogant about it all, it was quite easy. You don't have a dominant scrum. You have a lineout that was misfiring. Um, and yet we won almost every contact area. And the driving maul try from Dewi Lake was they almost ran away from the supporting forwards. And like I said, Dewi Lake had a sorry, Owen Watkin had almost a walk in.
Yeah.
You know.
We made them look very average.
Hmm.
Like they didn't really offer much. I think they made a big point before the game about picking this massive backline, which was like average like 105, 10 kilos, and average height like 6'3", and they were all worse physically than Keith, which is
Hmm.
not only really funny, but I think just speaks to. I think we just got the game plan right, and they're just sort of they obviously wanted to try and target us physically, and then just couldn't match us. I
We
mean,
also put them under enormous pressure to such a point where they couldn't get the basics right. There was a restart where Anderson catches the ball. He's not isolated, but we flood in. I think Deves is there, Harry is there. I think even Jack Walsh was there. We flood in, and they're all trying to protect him, but they're all upright. None of them are putting their body right in where it hurts. None of them are dipping in to hit the ruck. No one's protected him. We turn the ball over, and then within a couple of moments, Garin Phillips, my favourite prop, because he's an ex-pupil of mine, Garin Phillips carries the ball towards Anderson and runs over the top of him. So I think we made them look ordinary because they were just totally scrambled and confused with the intensity, and they forgot all technique. There's no way that those professional rugby players are coached to ruck standing upright and hesitate. And we put that into them, and it happens. I mean, you put people under pressure, and the coaching goes out the window, and it's just instinct, and they just didn't, and there were little bits and pieces of basic stuff there that just allowed us meet us time and time again. Um, and we seem to just march forward really when we're at will away from the set piece. That's a concern. The set piece is a concern. But the physicality, I think, was the massive difference, and there was such a difference between us. But that's a derby, you've got to bring that. It's a non-negotiable. You've got to start with that, and then build a game around it. You know.
I was going to say, looking at some of the stats, set pieces really concerning. I think we lost 5 out of 14 lineouts, which is really not good. Only one scrum according to the stats on the URC website, which feels probably not like too far off based on
Mm.
Adam Whitehouse's interpretation on Reece Henry mirroring his opponent. But the stats don't really do this game much
I,
justice.
I think the like when you look at the set piece stats, it explains the rest of it to me.
Yeah.
When you look at the stats.
I was going to say possession 64-36 in terms of Scarlets, territory 64-36. I think they had 80 more meters gained, 4 more clean breaks, and still couldn't
Yeah, but with all
do
that
anything.
ball, it's not a lot. You look at the
Yeah.
efficiency in terms of, average go forward with the ball. Okay, and we miles better every time we carry in.
I was going to say, like, we're only 80 meters behind when making half the amount of carries.
We had 13 dominant tackles to their 3. It's just
Yeah,
totally one-sided. That's one-way traffic, and we made 225 tackles.
yeah,
So we are really good without the ball.
Yeah,
You know.
that's so. Our tackle success rate is in the 91, 92%. I think the
Mm.
Scarlets is sort of sitting around 70, 75, which, like, Super Rugby teams look at that and think defense option.
I thought our bench was brilliant as well. I thought every single one of them who came on made massive contributions. Whether it was Gavin Phillips carrying, Sam Parry's carrying and physicality, whether it was Morgan Morris in the wider channels. I thought he was outstanding.
yeah,
The switch
Obviously
for Reece
Cochin came
Tompkins.
on, you
yeah.
know.
I vote again. Oh, Reece Davis did a lot of hard work as well. Yeah, so
Yeah.
when you looked at the Scarlets bench, okay, there was a good bunch of supporters around us. We were on the terrace, and fair play to the Scarlets boys. They were very open and honest, and it was probably the best experience I've had in the Park of Scarlets in a long time in terms of people who were around, and they were just saying, "Oh, your bench is so much better than ours," and yeah, showed, and all of our guys contributed.
Hmm.
Just a question and a little bit of a thing. When was the last time Max Page did anything?
Oh, that's harsh. That is.
I feel sorry for him. I think
He's,
when he was in the under 20 setup, he's such a talent. Um, I don't know whether he's had a few injuries. He's played really well in the SRC for Llandovery last season. But like many occasions, these youngsters they're just about ready, and getting a string of games together is very difficult. And I think he's the type of player who needs about 5 or 6 games early in a season, not a token at the end of a season type of thing before the time at all. He needs a run of six or 7 games, probably as a winger. I don't think he's going to be a midfield player, soon. I think as a winger first and foremost. He's very deceptive, very quick. And opportunities are few and far between. He's just going to have to take them, the next time he gets his chance. Like,
I almost feel bad. It feels like another case of wonderful Welsh talent being slightly squandered by being thrown in a little bit too early. I mean, he played a lot of rugby last year.
yeah,
Obviously, he got called up into that Wales squad that went out to Japan. Didn't play
Yeah,
a minute, but as I
I
said,
thought he looked good last season. It's good to see someone with a bit real attacking flair and ability.
mm,
And yeah, as Dav said, yeah, he's been in and out. But you look at the Scarlets like centre selection box that they've got, and they've got 2 established front line wingers, and they in me and Rogers as well. Then it's going to be difficult for him.
yeah, yeah. It's and you look on paper, and that Scarlet's backline and the squad is exceptionally strong and well contested. Um, and I think if he can establish himself in the Scarlets team, get a run of games, I think we're going to see a better player. But that's not our problem, is
No, Ospreys Eyrie podcast. Eyrie podcast.
it?
No, I went to, as a quick comparison, our number 23 is obviously Houston Hopkins. Nowhere near the same fanfare.
No.
Fuck me, does he hate the Stars?
Well, he lives right on the edge, doesn't he? He lives in the middle of the. Well, Cwmgors, I think, is his local, is his village, and that's his club. And another Silvera product, I might say, a Vera boy. So he lives right. So he will live with a lot of Scarlet fans. So he's had to put up with a lot in the last few years. But he's brilliant. I mean, every time, and he's just got this great attitude of just I'm gonna express myself. I'm empty my tank, empty the tank. I'm just gonna get on with it. And he just
Yeah.
seems so comfortable at this standard. I think it's brilliant.
I think the way he's come on the last sort of 6 months, especially the start of this season, he's just looks better and better every game.
Mm.
Like he looks like he's up there physically, despite it. Small act. Like
He's
Yeah,
had games on the wing, isn't he? We look at him as a fullback originally, and there's some fair competition there when he appears on the wing. He does not look out of place at all, does he? And it's a bit of physicality about him for a short guy as well.
oh yeah. Well, he's a cooking, isn't he?
I was going to say corking. That's all I was shouting at him all game. Yeah.
Yeah, no, great man. It's great to see you now, And he would have enjoyed it. I think he played really well last year against them, didn't he? He
Yes.
scored a couple
we
of
got
tries against them
we got
before.
a winner last time at
Oh yeah.
thersons.com in the 83rd minute, which was it's just very nice to see how he's kicking on. Obviously, set up one try, scored another.
Yeah. And that one try he set up, okay, in terms of when we play beautiful rugby, we play fantastic, beautiful rugby. And that was another example of some of the highlight reel stuff, isn't it? When you look at that try with Morgan Morris, actually realising, hang on a minute, okay, it's an old-fashioned, really simple move coming up here, boys, and you
Yeah.
know you're coming and you're not going to cope with it.
Mm.
That's beautifully finished, that was.
It's just what part of our one of many just screamers we score.
Yeah.
It's one every week. We're going to go against Cardiff. They're going to hate it.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of it. Just before we move on, any other standouts from the Scarlets game? Any favourite moments, even?
My favourite moment was Deasy's tackle on Jake Ball because there's been a lot of talk about Jake Ball coming back into the Welsh setup, offering physicality and kind of the stats against the Blues game. He did have a good game against Blues. That's not a problem, but we obviously would have stepped up after that. And slightly late, but I think he timed it perfectly, to be honest. And little rib tickler to their hard man, and he was complaining, sitting on the floor, winded. Took a few moments to get back up. Had the physio to come on and see if he was okay. I mean, the front five forwards should never ever show pain and never ever show weakness. And he was sitting on the floor. Physio had to come on for him, but it just shows how tough DVC is, isn't it?
But Jake Ball is held together with elastoplast and sellotape, and he's taken a battering since he's been back.
Yeah, yeah. Look, and I think if you're going to do it, pick out the toughest guy and
Chop him off.
do a number and make a statement. And he did make a statement because he's an abrasive character, and Jake Ball's a tough guy, like.
Yeah.
And as Alan Wynne knows. But yeah, Deevesy certainly put a marker on him late in the game. I thought he was great.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a big turning point. I will discuss Jake Ball a little bit, and mainly that he's also getting a lot of plaudits and a lot of punters saying he should be returning to the Wales squad. I think that game probably just said no, he's not quite up to it anymore. He looks comfortably outplayed by both of our locks in the loose. And when I think Reece Davis came on, he looked like just a step above.
Mm.
I don't
The
get
thing
it.
is, as well, the sad thing as well now is that the fact that, look, if the regions go down to three, we're not going to have the derbies that we had. And the derbies over the Christmas period have always been a kind of a probables possibles Welsh trial. Always. You know, you'd have Hooky against Stephen Jones, you'd have Peel against Mike Phillips, and they used to duke it out and sort out the pecking order in front of the Welsh coaches. You know, the way the Welsh Rugby Union is running the show at the moment, we're going to lose that, which is a massive part of Welsh rugby. And like for Jake Ball to play really well against Cardiff, that's great. But he wasn't playing against Teddy Williams. He wasn't playing against, he was playing against Rory Thornton. Rory Thornton's not an international test player. And even when he was playing against us, Rhys Davies comes on, but he wasn't playing against David Jenkins. He wasn't playing against Beard. So we losing that element of benchmarking our players against each other if we lose our Welsh derbies. And even if you go down, okay, you go down to three, you can still have everyone playing each other over a short period of time. I understand that. But, you know,
You don't get the
we're not
back-to-back
talking.
derbies on each weekend. It's just
Ball played really well against Cardiff. You can't take that away from him. He is probably their best second row at the moment. You can't take that away from him either. But, you know, is he better than Dav Jenkins, who's playing for Exeter at the moment? Is he better than Beard? Is he better than Fender? Is he better than Rhys Davies? You know, you can't until they play against each other
Yeah.
and they go toe to toe. You know, and 5 or 6 years ago, that's what Jake Ball was doing. He was going toe to toe with the likes of Ali Wynn and Andrew Coombs and people like that, and he was climbing the pecking order by proving himself in that sense. So it's difficult to say, where he is, at the moment. Um, age does catch up with everyone. Every player anyway. He does bring physicality. There's no doubt about that. And Wales have lacked physicality. But, I've said it before, Dav Jenkins has got to have 30, 40 caps before we see the best of him anyway. Same with Fender, same with the other boys.
on the side of watching Exeter recently, just highlights. Dav Jenkins seems to be ploughing over people for fun, really hitting a nice vein of form.
And Freddie Thomas playing really well for Gloucester.
It's really it's something about inspiring hope in the young boys is trying to give me a little bit of optimism about the Welsh over the next few years. Nice. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Shout out again to the travelling supporters who were down there. There's probably less Ospreys supporters than there have been the last couple of years, and whether people are just sick with the politics of what's going on. I don't know, but those who did make the journey, you could hear them all game, can you, on TV?
Yeah.
So,
After 25 minutes was definitely off many scholars.
I was surprised how subdued they were, but then again, they are bottom of the league again, and they seem to be going through the same ringer as us. It just doesn't seem to be as public as everyone, aiming things at us compared to them. But they were fairly subdued, these supporters.
Let's move on then. 2 SRC games this weekend. Not many other coming results, if any.
No. We won't go back to around the Munster game and go through the full set of results. In terms of the last few days, we had Aberafan 21, Swansea 31, and Bridgend 10, Cardiff 33. So that's Bridgend nailed at the bottom of the SRC table along with Pontypool and Swansea Aberafan midish table. That's it in terms of results. There's a friendly, wasn't it, with Neath, Bonamine on Boxing Day.
I think that was the league game, wasn't it?
No, it was a friendly because people.
Oh, was it? Okay.
People inquired because they said, "Why isn't this part of a season ticket?" Well, this is just a friendly. This is. So yeah, it was a bit of a shock. It's a reasonable crowd there again. It always is, isn't it, on Neath on a Boxing Day.
Some decent rugby. Unfortunately, our region's not doing the best in SRC, but I mean, Cardiff put out starting loosehead was Ed Byrne for Ireland's international playing SRC level, which feels slightly it's hard to compete with.
We've got with the SRC's for, isn't it, in terms of developing young blood and getting them playing alongside experienced players, and all the teams in the SRC are at that same sort of level and doing the same thing, then it sort of works a lot better, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's move on to the final bit of the pod then. Cardiff at home this weekend. Brewery basically sold out. Cardiff not looking great. Obviously, I beat the Dragons 22-19, but did not look comfortable doing so, particularly. How are we feeling going into it, David? Do you want to lead us in?
Well, obviously, really pleased with our result against the Scarlets, and but looking at some of the detail of our performance, there are some threats and there's some problems. I think where we made hay in the breakdown. I think the personnel the Cardiff have got, whether it in the back row, particularly whether it's Faltao, Alex Mann, Botham, Dan Thomas. I can't see us bullying them in the breakdown and making as much progress really this next time around. I might be wrong, but they seem to be a little bit. There seems to be more quality in the Scarlet in the Cardiff pack really. I think they've got a little bit more about them in the scrum. I think. Even if it, I mean, Javan Sebastian is having a real kind of like Indian summer and a great comeback really, and he's locking the scrum out, proving to be a very good shrewd sign in for Cardiff. They got a lot of good backup props as well with Southwell, Barrett, boys like that. So I'm not sure what the injury situation is with Domachowski and Azarati, but they're good operators in the scrum as well. So I'm a little bit concerned for our scrum, where we've always built our game around a good set piece and Toby Bootham before then. We have lost a few key figures through injury as well, but we seem to have lost a little bit of our potency at scrum time. Our line out, if we can get a functioning line out, particularly in the 22, I think we're one of the most dangerous sides as far as the driving wall is concerned, whether it's Parry or Lake. But we need certainty with possession, and teams are now challenging us at line out, particularly even when they're close to the line and they're sacrificing feet on the ground to try and disrupt and pinch our ball. So that needs to be addressed. If we can sort, and I know these kinds of things are easily sortable anyway by a coach within the week anyway, with a bit of analysis and a bit of repetition. I think if we can get those two things sorted, I think we'll be okay. There's going to be a lot of talk about the threats that Cardiff have got. They've got Falletau, they've got Grady, big strong boys. Ben Thomas seems to be playing quite well at the moment. But I think the key figure for Cardiff really is Sheedy. And I think if he plays well and guides them around the field, we're going to be under pressure. And that maybe was a big glaring problem for the Scarlets last week, was that they didn't have a general at 10. Um, you know, Hawkins is still learning his trade out at half. I like the boy, but I think he's a 12. I think he's a very good 12. But Sheedy could be the one who kind of like guides them. But I think, we've just got to do what we do really well. And I think people like Moriarty on the field, Ratty, Thieves in the back row. I'd like to see Morgan Morse on the bench, to be honest. I like Morgan Morris, but Morsey for me is a game breaker, and he's the type of kid who will come on the field and he will, he'll change a game. I think our collective effort will be enough to win the game, but moving throughout the season, my concern is our set piece. I think that needs to sharpen up, and once we do that, I think we'll climb the league. But they're going to be a bigger threat than the Scarlets. But winning is a habit, and we're playing at home, so let's throw everything at them and see what they got.
Yeah, I think when you look at what the Scarlets did to Cardiff in terms of how they rushed Cardiff's attack and put them under some pressure, if the Scarlets can do that to the Cardiff attack, there's a damn good chance that we should be able to do the same. I
Mm,
would have thought that Sheedy's got the opportunity to try and read what's going on and start putting little dinks in at the right time more often, because when he does kick, he normally kicks very well.
mm,
But if we can put pressure on Cardiff's attack, in midfield, then we might have a repeat of the way that things went against the Scarlets. I'd rather we just fix things up front in the first place, and we didn't have to worry about, putting all the emphasis on defence.
Yeah. I think there's some parts of the Munster performance were better than the Scarlets' performance, to be honest. We had more possession, we had a bit more territory, we had more entries in 22. Um, but of course, the local derby brings out that bit of guts in you. And let's hope that it happens again against Cardiff. And it's great that the brewery is full. It's going to be noisy. They're going to complain about the pitch probably because they like playing on plastic pitches.
Yeah.
So if we can get in their head a little bit, I'm just a little bit concerned about Faletau. He's such a great player, and once he starts to tick, he can be the difference in a close game.
I'm unsure. I think Palatau's obviously a Rolls Royce of a player. Naturally, it's going to be a massive influence if he's starting. But he's only really got in his legs for 50, 60 minutes.
Oh, fingers crossed, you know.
I mean, I haven't seen him play a full game in the better part of a year and a half now. And doing it at a brewery field is not exactly where you want to come back and play a full 80, especially on a pitch like that. He's going to go through so much work. It's going to be, especially if the weather's miserable.
I think it's been dry and cold all week in the freezing.
Yeah.
If there's a storm the day before as well, that'd be quite nice.
I mean, I'd be interested to see if Morgan Morris breaks into the side, because I know you talk about Moriarty starting at 8 and Morsey coming off the bench to cause chaos, but Morgan Morris in the time he's had has looked back and close to his best, which is really good news. And he's only a couple of games in, and he's looking tasty again. So I think he might be able to make an impact if he features in the squad.
The key thing is the balance, isn't it? You've got I know you've got to pick your best players, and some players will always be first on the list. You cannot leave Deasy out of the side with what he gives. He's on another level at the moment. You've got Jack Morgan, and as far as I'm concerned, then you've got Harry Deves.
Yeah.
Because he is the epitome of the scavenging, fetching, dog in your face open side who just the old fashioned open side that used to get in the face of the outside half and disrupt, and a few late shots and getting, the whistler's gone and he's grabbing someone. He's so your props are not the props are not thinking about the scrum. They're thinking about, there's something's going on over there, like so. And he's such a great character on the field. He's got to start.
Yeah.
You've then got to balance then your 8 and your 6, because if you do start with Deves, you've got to have a line-out threat then at 8 and 6. And Morris and Morse don't provide that. So Ratty is there as a 6 and a line-out forward. And I like that. I think the way forward for lots of teams is that 6, who's a kind of a hybrid lock. And then it's a straight shootout then. Who's your best number 8? Well, if it's a derby, it's going to be Moriarty. So I think that basically is our back row. Touchwood, wall availability, and then you kind of think, well, who's going to give us the best impact off the bench? Is it Morsey or Morris? They obviously, I don't know, or do you put Moriarty on the blind side and you pick one of those two as your number 8? I'm not sure.
It's a nice job, isn't it, Dave?
Oh yeah, and Jack Morgan should be fit. He should be playing for us.
Yeah.
It is a nice feel. It is a nice problem to have, and I think, and a lot of the Scarlets fans did say themselves. They said we don't have that problem. We haven't got that kind of. And I know they talk about Josh McLeod and being unavailable, etc. And he's a loss. He is a loss, but I don't think he's in the conversation when you talk about the best open sides in Wales.
No.
So, it's interesting to see how we'll balance that back row. I think there's a lot of rotation over the derbies anyway. I think Rhys Davies will probably start. Are we picking the side now?
Yeah, might as well.
I think Rhys Davies will start. He'll probably be, and I think that boy Smith has been an absolute gem of a find. He's he's brilliant. He offers everything really that we've lost with Beard. He's got that, got that grunt about him, set piece, nous, calls the line out well. I know the set piece isn't functioning 100%, but you can see his value and his ability in the side. So we might go with Rhys Davis and Smith second row. Sutton played really well against the Scarlets, mind, really well. Another
Sutton's been
great
in
find, you know.
excellent form all season. Like he's been just superb. He looks, he's arguably pushing sort of both Reece Davis and Ryan Smith out the squad a lot of the time. And it's
He's
like
just he's he's a type I don't think well he's incredibly similar to Alun Jones. He's got that energy, that athletic ability around the field. He does get in people's faces. I mean, he's a nice chap, but he crosses the white line and he's an absolute warrior. He's a very, very intelligent rugby player. Um, he's a hell of a find, hell of a find. So yeah, I think that back five selection is going to be key. The balance has got to be good. Um, and then front row, I think you've got to rotate the props. And I think Dewi Lake starts obviously. Um,
Cam Cam Jones coming in. I think Garton is still injured, unfortunately.
yeah, well, it'll either be Cam or it could be Garen Phillips, who came off the bench. Um, tight dead, you know, Ben Warren's still around. I mean, we're not where we used to be, where we had all the international, loose heads. We had Tom Francis. We're not in that position yet, but we seem to have a collection of tight heads and loose heads who are, apart from Gareth Thomas, you could make a case for each one starting, and they're showing glimmers of real talent. So I think with maturation, we look in 2 years' time, we're looking at some seriously good tight forwards, as props if they continue to improve as they should, you know.
Yeah. But if you're going to start against Cardiff, though, I'd be bringing Tommy Botha on to start, because we can't let the game get away from us up front in terms of penalties and
Yeah,
decisions against us.
yeah,
Rhys Henry's playing well, but Tom Botha brings something else to need to the set piece.
yeah,
I think Reece Henry probably brings more off the bench as well. He's a bit more of a carrier. He can distribute a bit better. He's a bit better in the loose and can still look out the scrum if need be. Like I think it's trying to stay competitive probably into the last 20 minutes for us. So I
we
think
said he can cover outside half as well.
yeah, absolutely. Here's our 10 cover off the bench.
He can cover outside half.
I'm pretty sure
Definitely.
you'd have to go with 11 shirt if you give him the
Oh,
option.
he's a phenomenon. He's a phenomenon, honestly. And he's still really young. I think he's only a year older than Garen Phillips. I think he's 25 or 26. He's not. I know he looks
So he's still
mature.
6 years away from the scrouting peak.
They
Yeah.
don't have the same hairdresser, those two, do they?
Yeah, I know. I think we're gonna have to be solid in the set piece against Cardiff because they weren't great against Llanelli, the Scarlets. But they just, and particularly in the second row, I don't think there's too much ballast there with what they've got. But I think the props, the Cardiff props, I think could offer a bit more of a threat really than the Scarlets. But I don't know. Maybe I'm selling our boys a bit short. Um, they know that it's what I love about it as well is the adversity has brought the best out in the squad yet again. Um, and I don't think other people get it. I don't think they understand. The more that you put us in the corner, the more we fight back. And it's a very much an Ospreys trait that has been in existence from the beginning, really, from the Lynn Jones days. Lynn Jones operated like that. Tandy learned from him. You've got people like Duncan and all those kinds of like values and people, Paul James and all that, Bishop. They love being an underdog. They love being second choice and proving people wrong. And that still is that's in the kind of DNA of the Ospreys region, like. And they don't quite get it, do they? Those Cardiff types and the Scarlets, and they just don't understand that it's a mistake after mistake after mistake to underestimate us all the time, like, you know.
I think the Cardiff boys will be not particularly comfortable. They look to be getting bullied by smaller teams a lot. I mean, I'm looking back at the Dragons game a lot. They got a couple big hits by some big names. They look rattled almost.
Mm.
Like they almost lack a sense of maturity, even sort of how early in the season you could say that we lacked that sort of nous of controlling a game. I don't think Cardiff quite have it. They're really susceptible to big changes in momentum. You look at the amount of times they've conceded 4 tries off nothing. Look at the Ulster game they played. They won in the end, sure, but they were 14-0 up and ended up into the last 20 minutes, 26-14 down. I think there's a real way that if we can just get at them for a period, they won't be able to bring it back. I think it's just
Fair play to the Dragons. They've they've had a torrid time the last few years. But they seem to have turned things around a little bit. Unfortunately, they beat us. But they have spoken about developing a culture, having that kind of like never give in attitude, sticking together, and they've got a good set of values there. And of course, they're led by an ex-Osprey. So it's obviously the Ospreys are doing their missionary work by sending ex-players there to coach and to raise the standard, and they seem to be aping our values of
professional.
digging in and getting stuck into the favourites and the checkbook Charlies and the fancy Dans. Like, sound like a Dragon supporter now, don't
yeah, yeah. Who isn't having with it? We all want the Dragons to do well. It'd be nice to then pinch their players when they get too good for the Dragons. Cough, Shay. I think, shall we continue along the team selection then? We've got through probably front five, back row. I'm quite keen to have Moriarty at 6, so we can get Morgan Morrison. I think it just gives us an extra bit of grunt in McCarry, and Moriarty is a very obvious.
I think Moriarty's got to be there. He's
6 or 8. He's got to start, hasn't he?
He's been superb.
Yeah.
He's been absolutely superb. I think he's my favourite Moriarty.
Well, that's a high bar.
I don't know. No, he'd start, and whether he starts at 6 or you make the gap for one of the MMs at 8, and by moving Moriarty to 6, then it's a nice problem to have. But the one constant is Deeds should be playing 7, and Moriarty should be 6 or 8, and then shuffle the rest around it.
Yeah, I got a feeling they're going to go with Morsey. I think I think it'll be Moriarty 6, Morgan Morse 8, Deevesy 7. I know you kind of might have a little bit of slightly less line-out presence in the back row then, but Moriarty's a good line-out operator.
He can do a job. He's been doing a job for us quite a lot, doesn't he? We've used it.
Yeah. And they will use Morgan Morse in the line-out. They have to. And we've used Morgan Morris effectively in the tail as well. I mean, I think a lot of our set-piece issues are to do with combinations, changes, new players. Smith is new. We've lost Beard. So there's a lot of changes, and it'll come good in the end, I think. Duncan Jones has been a fantastic set piece coach over the last few years, and he just needs time to sort it all out, I think.
I'm fairly confident about whatever pack we pick. Should be pretty competitive around the park and that set piece at the end of the day. I don't think there's anyone we can really put in that will deteriorate us like too badly in that level. We've sort of got a consistent theme of players who just seem ready to step in at any point, which is probably to our benefit, but also means we don't really have our first choice nailed down. This game will be one up front, despite both of us wanting to play beautiful attack and rugby. It's who's going to win up front, and who are the backs and to help flourish in the circumstances. Shall we move on then? Halfbacks, I think. Kieran Harvey Bennett. Move on.
Yeah, I think is Ruben injured? Or is it just a matter of
I don't
being
know.
back in order?
I don't know whether they've just been using Luke Davis on the bench and one of the two Premier scrum halves starting the last couple of weeks, because I don't know if Ruben's injured or not. But
Might be a way
Did
to
Luke
just
have a bit of a
manage
sorry?
minutes. Might just be a way to manage the minutes, but make sure that Hardy and Rupert aren't just playing constantly.
Did Luke? Did I notice Luke have a twist towards the end of the game? He twisted his ankle towards the end of the game, maybe.
I
He was
didn't.
limping. Either way, I think
Uh,
Hardy was excellent. Best form so far, I think,
yeah,
that I've seen him play for us anyway.
hand time on
Um,
the kicks is brilliant.
yeah,
Every time a ball goes in the air, it's that counter.
yeah.
Spot on at the moment.
Um, so I think you've got to have consistency at halfback. So I'd keep those two there.
Yeah.
I think Owen Watkin was absolutely amazing on Saturday, on previous fixture.
Whatever day it was, it's
The way
Christmas.
he reads the defense, he just doesn't panic, and he doesn't. He just no one seems to get beyond him. His tackle success rate must be through the roof. Looks a little bit slimmer, to be honest. You know,
Yes, he does.
um, which is a good thing because when he was a young player, he was rapid, and he lost a little bit of that with his injuries, but he looks really good. Kieran again, outstanding. Those
I
two
think
together, absolutely brilliant.
I was gonna say, I think if Kieran's fit and Watkins is still ready to go, I think we just keep him the same. Kieran Runley over Callum Sheedy is going to be brilliant.
It's a good point.
They like him. They'll put
Yeah,
him on a wing, man. They'll put him on a wing. They'll put Sheedy on a wing out of the way.
yeah.
If they bring in at 10 to cover them, it's not like any of them are particularly big. They're not
Mental.
gonna have, I am not convinced that they're bent on us defensively.
But
Mm.
again, you go back to like Kieran and Owen playing together. Defensively, they were off the scale against the Scarlets. They were dominant. Okay, they were spot on. The completion rate was immense. But then we just taken Cognisiga and Bosch off out of the equation. And
Mm.
those two, when they play together in terms of attack, okay, they just seem to be on a different level and just linked up mentally together, where they know
Mm.
exactly what they're doing, and the gaps they are creating in defences is brilliant. But it's almost like if you mix and match the pairs of centres, you might not get the best of both worlds. So
Mm.
you've either got to go one way and dominate in terms of defence and hope that Keith can then trolley through the middle of everyone, which isn't a bad. It's not a bad tactic, is it? Or you go back to the beautiful rugby and have the cock and singer Bosch off combination.
Yeah, Kieran's a very old-fashioned player. He's a kind of he would be very suited to play in rugby league, where he doesn't expect to run through everyone, but he knows that whoever's against him is going to have to do really well to get him down. And so if he can gain 10 meters, 15 meters, that's his job. And he'll
Yeah,
happily do that every time he's got the ball. It's a thankless task to be a ball carrier in midfield, but he thrives. He loves it.
yeah,
And he's one of those who kind of like in a moment and in a flash, he'll take you forward 10 meters, and all of a sudden the whole team has got momentum.
yeah.
Deavesy does exactly the same. Pinch the ball, go forward. Simple stuff. And so, yeah, I think, I mean, those two in the centre, against the likes of Ben Thomas, Sheedy in midfield, Harry Millard, who's a good player, very underrated, Harry. He's quick, brave as well. Ex-pupil of mine.
He's getting a lot of bonus at the moment, isn't he? It's not just me.
I tried to get him in the Ospreys. I did uh, when Cardiff were messing him about. I did give him a couple of messages. Anyway, no, he's a lovely kid as well. He's a really really good bloke. But yeah, I just hope that we whatever centre partnership we pick goes well, and they give the same kind of go forward and never say die as we did last week.
Yeah. So yeah, we settling on Keith and Owen then, is it?
I think so.
Done last week.
As
And
I said,
I think Owen Watkin, if he plays really well, he's going to be, into the new year, he'll be in the Welsh squad again. And people are not saying it, but it's definitely someone we've missed. Someone who can read a defence, hold things together, a great communicator. It's exactly the type of centre we need.
He's an international class 13 and has been his entire career. Since he
Yeah.
came in 2018, is obviously part of the 2019 side, off the bench, consistently does a job over Jonathan Davis a lot of the time when he was injured. It just looks like Owen Watkins sort of like the Scott Williams reincarnation.
Yeah.
Where he just sort of do the job perfectly and either 12 or 13 that you want at international class. Maybe not enough to shine and stand out, but it's a very good international quality centre. And that's something we can't say about every player in the squad.
No.
These some recent squads.
Owen's really unlucky, wasn't he? He was when a under 20s Grand Slam team, absolutely flying, had early appearances for the Ospreys, pushed through, looked really comfortable against the top URC sides and European sides. And then those injuries, unfortunately, just, kind of interrupted his career. But he's been a fantastic servant of ours. I think in the 20s team, I'm sure he was up against Gary Ringrose in one of the games, in the 20s Six Nations. And he was streets ahead of his peers at that age. Just the way things go sometimes with a few injuries at the wrong time.
Yeah, it's a shame. Let's move on then. Back three. I'll give who we picking. Actually, we've got a depth of options of 4 real top quality wingers. Okay, Jack Walsh is going to be a fullback. I think that's the one we can nail in.
Jack Walsh, Naji's had some good games, but why would you leave out one of the best players in Wales at the moment? Jack Walsh starting at 15. And for me, Keelan, he's a little guy, but I think the Scarlets thought they could run through him on the weekend and failed miserably. Okay, he plays with it, with a passion and an amount of drive. Okay, Keelan is the one definite start as far as I'm concerned on one of the wings. When you look at the other, that's for me. But the other options then is a matter of, okay, do we need to look at what we're playing against, or do we just go right? How do we want to play the game? Does Cassende come back in? Do you stick with Combia? Does Cochin get a chance because he's playing really well?
I'd go with Cochin. I would. I'd start him in the back three. Cassende, very good. Maybe Max Nagy on the wing. Who knows? But Cardiff have got a good kicking game. They might pepper out back three. If you go with Cochin and with Walsh in the back three, and Keelan, that's not a lot of aerial presence, particularly against Mason Grady on one wing and Josh Adams on the other. And Adams is going to be good in the air.
Yeah.
So they might look at how to manage that, and Cochin might be the sub, or he might start. But I think you've got to look at the balance and the makeup of the three, and they might look at someone like Max Nagy on the wing, possibly, or Cassende, because they're more likely to snuff out aerial problems.
Yeah.
I think Keelan gives you a lot of threat in attack. Cochin does as well, because he's not a finisher like Keelan, but he's more of a tricky player to stop. He'll find spaces and he links up really well with players. He's an all-round, talent. He'd probably be able to get him to play in the centre at some stage, because he's got that ability, to link up with players and to be connected.
He feels very similar to sort of almost like a Johnny McNichol vibe.
Just
compared across the back three, but as a bit more of a ball player, or Hallam Amos. Yes.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of rugby ability and a rugby brain, isn't
he? Yeah.
Yeah.
In a little fiery red body.
Natural ball player. Probably the term. And he looks good. I think he's best used off the bench, right? I think he always brings in impact.
That does. Which brings impact to me, yeah.
And I don't think you say that about the other wingers in the squad necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, I
I would
just,
be concerned about if he's on the bench, fine, but I think you got to prepare yourself for Cardiff's threat will be they've got two kickers, 12 and 10, Sheedy and Ben Thomas. They're going to have a more variety to the kicking game. Llanelli, Scarlets, all they did really was they tried to carry through the middle of us,
Yeah.
right? Blues are going to be slightly different threat. They're going to have they got Grady on the wing and Adams on the crossfield kicks are really handy to them. But also the challenge in the ball in the air as well. They're very good. Those two are good in the air. So we're going to have not just the back three. Everyone's going to have to be ready for an aerial challenge. You know, Ali Davis box kick is very good. So that's going to be an element I think that we need to snuff out and we need to make sure we're on top of in there. Um, I probably looking towards maybe Cassende and Giles on the wing then maybe backtrack on that Cochin vote, but um,
it's
And
what
then
I'm
looking at the
leaning
opposition,
towards.
mm,
yeah.
I think Cassandra's had a bit of a timeout. I think giving him a Vitamin jersey for the derby would be what he needs. He hasn't actually had the chance to punch any Scarlets yet, so you have to give him a chance to punch someone.
well, Cocker Singer has played on the wing before, wasn't he? Not for us, but was he when he was with?
Best.
Leicester? Maybe I'm not.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
Cox used to be massively rapid, didn't he? When you looked at his highlights before he came to us, yeah, outside
yeah,
centre, come winger, and
mm,
he's playing inside centre for us most of the time. I was talking about him on the ball. He's saying, "I just love getting my hands on the ball more." You know,
yeah,
didn't expect him to be senior at 12, but just thought of him as a pacey guy. But
yeah. It'll be interesting to see what our back three selection will be. That'll probably be as interesting, really, as our back row balance, I suppose.
but do you think potentially Nagy will actually start at 15?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'll be surprised. But where do you know, the thing is with Walsh though, his kicking game is brilliant, and bring having him at 15 allows him to come into the line on a short blind side or in midfield, and they do use him as first receiver, second receiver out the back as well. And he's such a good player. You couldn't put him on the wing. You'd
No,
have to have him full back. Um, it's possible you put Nagy on the wing.
fixes
No.
it. Yeah,
I'm
6'4" winger.
I'm a big fan of Jack Walsh off the bench as sort of controlling hands. He's
I just
played a lot of rugby.
I just like him wherever he plays. Love him. He's a bloody fantastic player.
I think we'll see him on the bench and Nugget 15. Just like that aerial battle, I don't think Nagy's probably edging it out over.
Mm.
I think, and then Jack Walsh can come on and just manage the game in the last 10, 15 minutes if need be, and can obviously cover 10. God forbid something happens to Dan Eds.
The question is in the conversation the Ospreys are having this week, okay, is Mark Jones having that conversation with Fussell about how they're going to select their back three in terms of the opposition they play, or are they just looking at like this is the way we're going to play, this is the mark we're going to make on the game?
Whoever you play, your back three's got to be good in the air anyway. You're gonna have to be prepared
Good
to
enough.
take high balls.
Yeah.
So, um, I I I I think they would have a conversation about, you've got Grady, 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
Josh Adams, British Lion, was really good in the air. You've got two kick-in threats in midfield, and you've got a good box kicker scrum half. You've got to know what's coming. And for 50% of the time, you don't have the ball. So you've got to be able to put things in place to make life easier. Now, whether you trust the players who you think are the best players all round, and they prepare for that challenge, or you pick horses for courses. I think there's going to be a bit of rotation anyway because derbies tend to be like that, and it takes a lot out of players emotionally to repeat the same type of thing.
It's only a
And you
6 day turnaround as well.
6 day turnaround, and you get players to you do get players to get up for games a little bit more if you hold them back a bit. Like, Morgan Morse now has been held back. He'll be disappointed he's not starting. You're not gonna leave him out of the 23 for 2 weeks, particularly over derbies. I would imagine he's gonna figure somehow, and I wouldn't mind betting they'll start him at number 8, particularly the way he's played in the Brewery against Cardiff in the past. 2 years ago, he scored that wonder try, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
You say there's a 6-day turnaround, and I think that's important. And you've got to take into that factor into the travelling and the time difference over the Lycha Bridge as well. Um,
You're going back in time over that. So I think,
yeah,
I'm not saying anything. I'm not digging any old stuff.
we'll have to do a podcast where we'll have to have a podcast and invite Tumble Scarlet and a few of the diehards. Where does West Wales start and finish?
I find speak from big trouble. You cannot be doing more apologising as a pod. Our graphic design budget's gone out the window. I was going to say, I think whatever 15 we pick will be good enough. It's just, are we own horses for courses? I'm a big fan of it. I think it works quite well in the modern game, especially if you buy tools and you have tools at your price and might not use them when they fit. I think we will. Let's round up the pod then. I want 2 predictions from each of you, score, and something funny. Grant, do you want to lead us off?
I'd be more cautious than my usual self and just go Ospreys by 6. Come back to me on the funny one.
I'm going to say it's 25-12 with a late try to seal the win by Cochin off the bench again. Dan Edwards to have man of the match. And Morgan Morse, another Silvera boy to play so well that they'll all be talking about him in Welsh selection terms. And then next week there'll be a rumour about him going to Saracens or something. Who knows?
Oh, that would be quite funny. I think I'm thinking Ospreys by 4 with a drop goal, sort of last 5 minutes to just take it beyond the threshold. And then Morgan Morse gets retweeted by Jim Hamilton again, saying this guy should sign for an English club and get the fuck out of Wales. That's my funny thing. After he scores something stupid. Go on, do you have anything funny to think about this game before we end off?
I reckon that for the poor people who can't get to the game, okay, we'll have a repeat of 2 years ago where the TV signal disappears on one of the games of the season. And you
I
only
think you get I think you'll get BBC Cardiff Pontcana set crying into their lattes the day after, complaining about the toilets, the ground, the traffic, the floodlights. They'll just complain about everything.
Yeah, beer's too cold, beer's too warm.
Yeah. Why? How can you play in Bridgend when the postcode's in Cardiff? That kind of stuff, like, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll have the same kind of like rugby gods from Cardiff saying that you know we should go down to one region or something.
One region is a new rumor that will be previewed on them.
Yeah, that would
next
be
week.
that's a good one to start, isn't it?
One true region.
Have one
No,
region.
I've said nothing's off the table in terms of 2, 3, or 4 still. You never quite know who's going to have one. That's the answer. Those
Well,
lots.
it is talk. There's lots of talk now. People are worried and they're saying, "Oh, we're going to stay at 4 and etc." I don't know.
Who knows? Can't second guess what's going on. If anyone claims to know what's going on, they're talking rubbish.
That's right. I think the only true people who really know are the very, very, very small group of people in the Ospreys. Because everyone else is guessing, and
Yeah.
everyone else is guessing on their behalf.
Yeah.
I think with that, we'll end it off for this week then, gents. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. Hope you had a Merry Christmas period, and let's come back to one more derby with a win. Good night.
Blew the name of that.
Cheers all.